Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. So for this video I thought I'd do a bit of classic Goodwood Revival racing. Obviously at the Goodwood circuit in Gran Turismo 7 it felt like the perfect canvas to basically get all these classic cars together and just do a 10-lap race. So you've got the likes of, classic Porsche 911s, you've got V8 American muscle cars, European sports cars, Japanese kind of sporty cars. So you've got a mix of everything really, kind of ranging from the 60s up until the 80s. So really awesome sights and sounds, some absolute legendary cars of the time, really going to feature quite heavily in this race. So we'll go ahead, we'll do the full race, and then we'll go into some highlights, some onboard, and for me the three best sounding cars to take part in that race. So sit back and enjoy. So the cars are sorted by their performance points from slowest to fastest at the back, and we have a regular Mini Cooper set to get us underway, followed by the likes of a Golf GTI, Toyota and Nissan Z cars. So really awesome grid, and as you can see it's going to be hard work for those faster cars to basically push their way through, as we already have some bumping and grinding going on between a Renault and some other minis. So there's two minis in this race, which you will notice. We have a Honda series mini, so it's a Honda swapped mini, and we have the regular. So it was looking like the Honda mini was in the lead, but it slipped out of that corner, and that is one of the Z cars nicely through. So here we go, let's have a look what's going on back here. We've got a whole bunch of cars, so it's looking like some of the faster cars are really kind of stuck in traffic with the likes of, the Golf GTI and things like that. Obviously the poor regular old Mini falling back here. However, it does look absolutely amazing, so I can, we can forgive it for that. So it's got a massive battle going on here, and the Mini's just going to keep on dropping as it finally lands in last place. So we've got the Z car out in front, chased down by a Corvette. That is one of the classic Corvettes. There's two in this race. I believe I want to say a C2 and a C3. I believe are in this race. And we'll go on board with the Corvette now. It's obviously stuck behind the Datsun, and there goes the Plymouth flying by. So yeah, definitely on the more straight sections of the track the muscle cars will have a massive advantage, but however I feel like some of these more sportier compact cars will have the advantage going into some of the corners, just for the the stability they have over these big brutey V8 American muscle cars. So let's go and have a look at our grid order. So obviously leading now is the Plymouth with that huge rear wing, a very, very wide and big car. I don't believe this one is wide bodied, followed by the Corvette, which has finally got past one of the Z cars, which is obviously pottering around in third place. As you can see there, absolutely stunning looking car in a period correct livery, followed by the other Corvette, which is looking like it might be overtaken by the Porsche there. The Porsche will probably be the standout car of this race. It is definitely the quickest. So in terms of sort of trying to level the cars out, the only modifications made to all of these cars is they are all running racing soft tires with a racing exhaust. That is it. Back here we still have a huge bunch up of more slower cars, and some of the faster cars struggling to get through. So that looks like a Pantera has now broken loose and is able to kind of start chasing down the Lancia Stratos. In that pack as well there's also a Camaro, which looks like it's still kind of caught up in the pack there. So let's go on board with the Pantera and listen to that glorious engine note. So it's looking like the Camaro and the Mangusta have broken free of that slower pack, so they will probably get along with trying to chase down the leaders. Obviously some of the more powerful cars in this event, so it's looking like the Mangusta is going to try and overtake on the Chevy, is it? Let's have a look. So let's go on board. Obviously a huge wide interior in here, very kind of open, but it's looking like it just can't quite catch the Camaro. The Camaro definitely one of the more powerful cars. However, I believe getting held up for a couple of laps may make it struggle in the long term, but they are all quite quickly on the rear of that Stratos. Up front, obviously, you have some of one of the Z cars as well. The Mangusta looking to make a move, but it didn't just quite get it. Then we have a Jaguar E-Type, one of the best looking cars ever made, in full period correct livery, so awesome to see that. We have a BMW down in 11th. Again, I feel like the BMW and the Jaguar will have their own battles throughout this race. Then we have a Renault 5 Turbo, followed by one of the Z cars, I believe, which is having a battle with the Alpine currently. So I feel like the Alpine's just got that one. Yeah, it has. So the Alpine goes through on the Z car, and that's going to be a position gain for that one. Quite a slidey little car, so when you see it up against everything else, it just looks so small, even up against the likes of the Renault 5 Turbo. Then we have the Honda engine swapped Mini, again just kind of doing its thing. It's quite fast, it always looks really quick, even though it isn't necessarily the quickest car on paper, as we now have the classic GTR and one of the Toyotas. I believe it might actually be the only Toyota in this race battling it out for position. So let's see how this goes here. Looking like the GTR might have a run on it there. We also have a Volkswagen, so this is a GTI, a Mark 1, basically doing its own thing. This is the, I believe it's the Autobachi, kind of doing its own thing. That and the Mini are definitely really kind of off the pace, so I'm not expecting too much from those pair. It just seems like one's got the advantage over the other. So back at the front, it's looking like the Porsche has caught the Plymouth and it's through there. So the Porsche looking like an absolute rocket in this race as it just flies past the Plymouth, using that acceleration and speed through there. And it's definitely, I'd say a little bit kind of, you know, rear end happy, but it's definitely a quick car. So let's go on board with it. So the Plymouth has pretty much disappeared from its sights now, and at this halfway stage, well, they'll let the lapping begin as it gets caught up behind the Mini. That should allow the Plymouth to close up, so let's see if the Plymouth is going to get through nice and cleanly. Yes, it is, as we go down into the braking area. You know, quite heavy turning in the Plymouth, but once you kind of nail those corners, definitely is one of the, I guess, more enjoyable cars to drive, as it's trying to run in the slipstream of that Porsche. But as we know, that Porsche is an absolute rocket as we again start lapping the back markers. So through goes the Porsche and through goes the Plymouth. As you can see, the gap that Porsche has just put on the Plymouth is absolutely insane. So yeah, awesome to see. Okay, so through this last right left, you can really make some time up. So let's see if the Plymouth is going to close up on the rear end of that Porsche. Even though we know how the Porsche has the advantage, it's looking like it's just caught it a little bit. But by the time they get going, it's looking like the Porsche is just going to be able to kind of maintain that lead as they go into the sweeping long right-hander here. And that's looking like, oh, the Plymouth just had to kind of back away from the Porsche there. So again, the Porsche is just going to stretch its muscles down the straight, the Plymouth running in the slipstream, but I think the Porsche is just going to have a little bit too much about it. So it's going to be an interesting one to see. So let's see if the Plymouth can really get anything done. I'm going to assume maybe not. However, they are very, very close there. Can the Plymouth go down the inside? I think it may have just gone down. Yes, there it is in the background. It's through back into the lead as we see the Golf is about to get lapped by the leading two, basically in a race of its own, but absolutely stunning in that livery. I really, really like the look of the Golf GTI there. As the Plymouth now goes through and the Porsche also looking like it's going to get through cleanly, is it? Yeah, there we go. So they are through now as the Porsche now tries to chase down the Plymouth. So I'm loving these onboard shots, just how close the cars really do get to each other. The Porsche almost going into the back of the Plymouth there. So let's check in the Corvette. Well, that's kind of running on its own at this point. Then we have the other Corvette being chased down by the Mangusta. It's looking like they both got past the Pantera. So the Pantera is now sat in P6 and the Camaro is now on the chase down as well. So that's managed to get through and sort of break away from the pack early on. So I feel like that will be quite a quick car and it will probably get into quite a close battle with the Pantera. Definitely one of the awesome looking cars in this race. Then we have the Lancia Stratos sort of doing its own thing, closely followed by one of the Z cars. So most of the cars sort of lapping the Mini at the back at this point. Then we've got the E-Type Jag and the BMW in their kind of own little battle. So definitely awesome to see. The Alpine doing its own thing, getting past the Renault 5 Turbo. Then we have another one of the Z cars. It seems to be kind of wandering around on its own at this point in no man's land. It's looking like the GTR must have got past the Toyota then for good, so it's looking like it's cleared that as both the Plymouth and the Porsche go through and past it. Then we've got the Honda Mini, which is looking like it's really getting on the back of that GTR there. So definitely one of the nippiest cars in this race. It's so small and just so fast and flat turning. The Toyota now sadly starting to drop back, basically doing its own thing. Then we obviously have the Golf, which is just wandering around, just being lapped. And then we obviously have the Mini and the Autobacci at the back. Then we have up front, obviously, the Plymouth and the Porsche. The Porsche looking to chase down the Plymouth. So the Plymouth holding on quite well. So in terms of, if it can nail those corners, it should be okay. Tail happy that Porsche really is. But on the straights, I've got a feeling that's where the Porsche is just going to, keep using its rocket speed to get on the back of it. So let's have a look on board the Camaro as it chases down the Pantera. I'm going to expect it to probably be able to make the move into probably one of the braking zones, but again, I feel like maybe the Pantera might have the advantage in the braking zones. It will look to go for the move. Is it going to? Nah, the Pantera is just going to cover that one off as it maintains at P6. So the Camaro really, does have the pace of, the front runners really. So it's a bit of a shame for it to get caught up in the pack as the absolutely stunning Stratos is doing its own thing. It's looking like the E-Type and the BMW now are on the back of one of the Z cars. So are they going to be able to make the move? Let's see if they can get it done. They're sort of stuck behind it at this point, as that's the BMW looking to make a move, and now it just sort of, they get kind of caught up in a freeway battle. So the side by side now, is the Jaguar going to be able to get this move done around the outside? It's looking like it. Yeah, it has. So it's got it done before the corner. So that is the E-Type now covered off by the BMW, getting held up by the Z car, but it's looking like the BMW is now through as well. So let's go back to the front and go on board with the Porsche chasing down the Plymouth. Now if it does get these few corners right, there is a high chance it will just go into the lead, as that might be, yeah, so the Plymouth is again getting up to the traffic, so, and the Porsche is, so it's basically make or break at this point. If one of them gets caught up, I feel like that might be race over for the others. The Plymouth flashes its lights and goes through past the Alpine and then up towards the BMW and the E-Type Jag, which I don't think they're going to make it too easy considering they're sort of having their own battle, and the BMW will be desperate to chase down that E-Type. So it's looking like it's going to go on the outside of the BMW. Yes, it is. And the BMW just didn't back off there. Now the Porsche's kind of caught up. So it's looking like the E-Type Jag might have got a, a get out of jail free card there as it, powers on and does its own thing. So let's go back on board the Porsche and see if it can really chase down this Plymouth as we go on the final lap of the race. The Plymouth sort of getting caught up with the E-Type Jag there. Is the Porsche going to do the same? Oh, it is a little bit. I don't know if it's going to be able to get through. Yeah, okay, it's through. So now again, more kind of time for the Porsche to make up as it gets stuck behind the E-Type. But as you can see, look at how quickly that Porsche is able to recover and get back on the back of that Plymouth. The Plymouth, obviously a huge car and difficult to overtake, so it's all about kind of using it as a rolling roadblock at this point. So the Porsche is really up there, and again, it just can't quite get through just because of the sheer size of the thing. It's such a big car. So we're going into this right-hander here. It's looking like the Plymouth may have just lost its line there, and it has, so it's ran wide. Is the Porsche going to be able to make that move up the inside? And it is, so it's looking like the Porsche may be on for a win in this final lap. So let's find out. The Plymouth running in the slipstream here as they're chased into the last few corners. The Porsche obviously got the speed advantage, so it's looking like it's broken away, and it's looking like it's going to be a pretty straightforward win for the Porsche. As you can see, it's up to 4 seconds faster a lap than the Plymouth that we're looking at now. Going into the right and left, it's the Plymouth's managed to get it all the inside, so that is absolutely incredible. Who's going to take the win as they drag straight to the finish? And it's the Plymouth getting it on that last left hand. It's looking as if the Porsche slipped. So let's look at some of the highlights. So early on, we had the cars all bunched up, and I think that's an absolutely awesome shot of just different classic machinery, some awesome cars on show. One of my personal favourites being the earlier Corvette and the E-Type Jag, as well as that huge wing on the back of the Plymouth just sort of sticking out no matter where. You can kind of spot it no matter where you look. So awesome to see as the cars are grouped up. So a little bit later on, we had the cars basically running through and getting in their own little battles. So it was the E-Type and the BMW who were battling it out all race, and the Jaguar is going to try and get down the inside of the BMW, looking like it's got it done. As they go into the corner, it's going to nudge the Mini, and the Mini's going to nudge the BMW, but it's looking like they're both going to get through, or maybe not. The BMW just didn't quite get through, so that was an awesome move there by the Jaguar. Then we've got this one. This is the Porsche chasing down the Plymouth in the first stage of the race, whatever you want to call it, and it's going to get around the outside, and using that insane speed advantage that it has, it just flies through and flies off. There's no way the Plymouth can kind of defend it on those on that big long straight there. So as they go into the right-handers, so then we have the Alpine and the Renault 5. They had their own little battle for a few laps, and you're going to see the Alpine try and get the move done on the outside. The Renault's not going to make it easy for it as the Alpine slides out. Such a tiny little car, it's awesome to see, but it does get that move done. So awesome job there by the Alpine. Then it's back to the front runners, and this is going to be the Plymouth making the move on the Porsche. As they go into the right and left-hander, it's going to be on the left-hander straight on the inside. The Porsche runs a little bit deep, and that's going to cost it a position as it tucks back in behind the big old Plymouth. So awesome racing, and definitely an entertaining battle to kind of watch back on the replay. In terms of these two, well, it was early doors and they were battling it out constantly for a good few laps. So the GTR looking to make the move on the Toyota. Is it going to get it done? Who knows? It's looking like the Toyota is going to hang on around the outside as they're pretty much side by side. Is the Toyota is going to brake later, going to use a bit of brute force and get its elbows out, and it's going to manage to retain the position as the GTR tucks in behind as they go down the start finish straight. A lap or two later though, the GTR was having none of it, and it finally looked to clear the Toyota, and it obviously did, because later on in the race we did see that the GTR kind of cleared it, and it's gone through nicely there on the inside of it, and it's going to then just disappear into the distance. So back to the front runners, the Plymouth and the Porsche. The Plymouth is going to run wide and dip a tyre on the grass, and that's going to allow the Porsche to make this an awesome move up the inside and kind of stretch its legs with that higher top speed and that absolutely bullet-like acceleration. However, it wasn't to be for the Porsche, as we had the Plymouth make that late move and just dive on the inside, as it's looking as if the rear end of the Porsche just kind of twitched out a little bit and cost it a bit of time. No contact made, they're side by side, and it's a drag race all the way to the finish. In terms of onboard overtake and all that good stuff, our onboard camera of the race was this one, the Plymouth overtaking the Porsche. Up next is the best sounding cars from the race. So that is going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really enjoyed making it. It was just something a bit different, and I feel like the classic cars in GT7 do not get enough love. So I thought, you know what, let's take them to Goodwood. Let's do a bit of a revival race, and let's see what kind of crazy action we can have. So definitely an entertaining race throughout. Absolutely awesome to see that, you know, many different cars kind of had their own little battles for laps and laps on end, you know, between like the Plymouth, the Porsche, the E-Type and the BMW. So yeah, absolutely amazing time I had making this video. Really enjoyed it, and it kind of brought back that passion for Gran Turismo 7. So don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. It lets me know that you've kind of enjoyed the video. And yeah, thank you so much for your support recently. I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers guys. Peace.